All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, this is Will Cook, and welcome to the Will to Win podcast. I'm your host. I'm a peak performance expert, and then this is episode number 6 so far. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Rance Mulliniks, and he's a former Major League Baseball player and 1992 world champion. He won the World Series with the Blue Jays back in 1992, and so that was the high point of that of his career. But he's a 16-year Major League veteran. Um, he's known for his elite plate discipline and clutch hitting. He carved out a career as one of the game's most reliable situational players, finishing with a 354 on-base percentage and setting a Blue Jays record for 59 pinch hits. A true grinder and overachiever, his journey from limited early rose to a key contributor on a championship team is a masterclass in adaptability, baseball IQ, and perseverance. Rance, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you, and welcome to the show. And where would you like to start?
Well, you're the host, so wherever you want to go with it from here is fine with me, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share a podcast with you, and I've been looking forward to it.
Okay, so every young boy, when they're playing in their backyard, whether it be wiffle ball, baseball, softball, they're imagining the bottom of the ninth in the World Series. They're imagining going to the show. They're imagining the magic moment. Um,
Yeah.
so as a young boy, as you were journeying, how did you know what differentiated you? How did you know you were separate from the other kids in terms of either talent or just knowing that you had an ability that was maybe a little bit higher than some of the others?
Well, I believe when you go out and you compete, and I started competing obviously at a very young age, you realize right away, it doesn't take long for you to realize that your skill set is much better than most of those that you're competing against.
Mm,
Just simply based on performance, you
right.
begin to look around and realize that you're exceptional in that sense. But if I were to say what really separated me out from almost everyone that I ever played with or against was I was extremely dedicated and motivated to work and put in the effort that I was going to have to put in order to maximize my ability.
Okay.
That to me really stood out. When everybody else was doing other things, I was down at the baseball field with my father, uh, working at
Mhm.
pursuing the dream of one day maybe being a major league baseball player. And I think that's the thing that separated me out more than
Right.
anything else.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
a lot of times when we talk about peak performance athletes and elite performers, and you and I touched on this on our phone call a little bit, is they're not so much focused on the outcome. They're kind of obsessed with the practice or the process. So it sounds like you knew that you stood out a little bit, but you knew that wasn't going to be enough. There was something else you were going to need to do. Did you have a mentor? I mean, maybe it was your dad, but did you have somebody who said to you, "Look, you have these gifts. This is what you need to do."
It was my dad.
Okay.
Um, my dad recognized that the ability that I had, the physical coordination, talent, natural timing, etc. He recognized that I was exceptional in that sense. Um, but so when I was 7 years old, my dad started throwing batting practice to me. And from that point on until I was 18 and signed to play professionally, approximately 5 months out of the year, because I did play other sports, we were completely focused on baseball. And we were down at, unless I had a baseball game, we were down at the baseball field practicing and working at, again, chasing that dream.
Okay.
And it was a perfect world for me in three ways. Number one, I had, and not necessarily in this order, I would say number one, I had a dad that was completely dedicated to help me chase and achieve my dream.
Mhm.
That's number one. So he was willing to give his time.
Mhm.
Number two, I had the physical ability to one day maybe be a major league baseball player. And number three, I was extremely motivated to chase that dream and do whatever it was going to take to make it happen.
Got it. Got it. So I love that distinction because there's a couple things I say to people, motivation's fleeting, right?
Yeah,
Discipline is great, but what we really want is a habit. And
right.
so with you and your dad, it became part of the schedule, it became the ritual, it became the thing. And you probably felt weird if you missed a day.
We did, and I can honestly say I don't ever recall missing a day where we went where
I
when
love
the
it.
opportunity, unless there was weather or I had a game
Yep.
or we I was transitioning into another sport,
Yep.
that we did not go down to the baseball field and put in time. And I think that I used motivation, but I think I
Mhm.
had a passion, and what the passion did was even when the times when things were difficult and going through that process, you use the word process,
Yes.
which is critical. I think we are constantly going through a process all the time. And in this particular case, because of the passion that I had for the process,
Right.
when things became difficult or I had to make a change that was going to be difficult to work through, because of that passion, it was it was not always easy, but
Okay.
I was willing to push through it
Okay.
to get to where I needed to go to the next level.
Okay. That this is perfect because this is going to segue. I'm going to leapfrog a little bit and you're going to understand why. Um, so you have this process, and then if something got difficult where you're implementing something new, you knew you needed more time and more work. So let's
Yes.
fast forward. You were, I think, a 243 hitter up to a certain point, and then you had a key conversation or experience with Tito Gaston, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. With Cito.
Oh,
Yes. Cito.
Cito, I got
Cito.
that wrong the other day too. Cito
That's
Gaston.
okay. Tito's is a pretty good drink if you like
It's a
drinks.
great with cranberry. It's amazing, and kudos to the
So,
folks who make that vodka. But anyway, so you had a special relationship with Cito, and
yes.
something happened where you were willing to make a massive shift. The same way when Tiger Woods was at the height of his career, he was willing to work on a new swing, and he was still amazing already, but he was willing to go to the next level. So run us through the process with Cito and how did you do that? What did you do? And how long did it take for you to really buy into that?
This process started in 1982.
Okay.
I was traded late in spring training to the Blue Jays, and Cito was the hitting coach when I arrived. Bobby Cox, of course, was the manager.
Yes.
And Cito is a very patient individual. And after we got about 2 months into the season, I was really struggling. And to your point, the conversation that we had at that time was he approached me and asked me, "What's your mental approach to hitting?"
Hmm.
I said, "What I've always been taught, and that was look fastball and try to adjust to
Hmm.
the, you can call it off speed pitches, secondary pitches, slider, curveball, changeup."
Yes.
And he said, of course, I was struggling really. And he said, "Well, how's that working for you?" And I said, "Well, it's not working. And I know that I'm to the point where coming out here and taking extra batting practice every day, which I do,
Hmm.
isn't the answer." So he said, "Well, I'm going to give you something that if you're willing to dedicate yourself to it, will definitely help."
Hmm.
And he said, "What I want you to do is create a mental discipline to where you can go to the plate and look to hit a slider or curveball or a changeup, something other than a fastball, and be just as confident and comfortable doing that as you would going up to the plate looking to hit a fastball."
Mm.
So that I started that process.
Hmm.
Now that sounds easy,
Hmm.
but if you've ever tried to change something that is a deeply ingrained mental habit,
Correct.
that is very difficult to do, much more difficult than the physical, making a physical
You
change.
have to be willing to be really uncomfortable.
Exactly. You got to be, and I was
Hmm.
extremely uncomfortable with it.
Right.
And I would try it and fall back into that old bad habit again. The minute that I went to the plate, let's say I went to the plate and I'm looking for a curveball off pitcher X, and the first pitch is something other than a curveball, and I would fall back to that old bad habit, or at least I would have doubt
Hmm.
that my plan, what I
Hmm.
intended to do, was going to work.
Hmm.
And at that point, it goes downhill very rapidly.
Right. Yes. And what I want to point out for the viewers real quick, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but
No,
really
that's no.
quickly,
Right.
there's two things. There's doubt and fear, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has a little bit of fear. Doubt usually means
Right.
we're not prepared. So when
Yeah.
that's why players have doubt because they haven't prepared the well enough. Fear is a natural thing and it's false evidence appearing real sometimes, FEAR,
Yeah.
but we can do resets and deal with the fear. But the doubt means I don't know what to do in this situation because I haven't practiced it enough. And
Exactly. I don't trust it.
yes,
I don't trust it. I don't trust what I'm doing.
yes.
And the fear of failure for me at that time
Mm,
was overwhelming.
mm,
Later I would take the fear of failure
hmm.
and take it on as a challenge
Yes.
and as something that motivated me.
Okay.
But at this particular time, the fear of failure could be overwhelming at times because I didn't trust my plan and I would go away from it. So there was no consistency to what I was doing.
Right. Right. Now, let me ask you a question real quick. Again,
Sure.
sorry, but there's such great interjection points. What was your catastrophic thinking? In other words, as a result of being in doubt and not trusting yourself, did
Mm-hmm.
you have a catastrophic idea like I'm gonna not make it or I'm gonna get traded or I'm gonna get benched? Like what was your catastrophe in your mind at the time?
My catastrophe in my mind was failure.
Okay.
I'm going to fail.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can overcome it.
Okay.
That was the catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't think long term in the sense of I may not have a career, none of those types of things. It was just that fear of failure.
Okay, so you were still present even though you were afraid. You didn't go way into the future with your catastrophic thinking. You were
No,
just like, I don't want to fail, which was what bothered you. But you weren't
right.
seeing like, oh, I'm not going to get playing time or I'm going to get, you weren't going to a
No.
bad place. You were going a little bit down the road, but not too far.
Well, I was in a bad place in the sense that um, there were days where I didn't want to go to the ballpark. There were days when I would hope I'd get to the ballpark and I wasn't even in the lineup.
Oh, wow.
That I would have those
That's
moments
heavy.
because and it's really what really made it difficult is the game that I had such passion for and I still do to this day was there was a period there where it was no longer fun.
Hmm.
It was just it was um it took a lot of effort to work through that, to
Mm,
face it and deal with it
mm. So
while
let
while I was failing at the same time. Yeah,
right,
but
both.
I
One, yeah,
yeah,
one not.
there was something in me that just kept saying, keep trying,
Yes,
keep pushing.
yes.
So
So,
so if I can move forward, the last 4 months of the 82 season, it would come and go. Things got a little bit better. I think I ended up hitting 244 and moving forward to 83. So I've been working at this for basically about 4 months at the major league level.
okay,
Early in the season in 83 is when I had a breakthrough moment.
okay,
And we were facing Lamar Hoyt, the Chicago White Sox, who won the Cy Young that year. I think Lamar, he won 24 games. I mean, he could really pitch.
okay.
And I had a conversation again with Cito. And I was scheduled to hit like fifth in the bottom of the inning if we started to build an inning, got a little something going. As it turned out, we did. So I went down, and it was a defining moment that I'll never forget. I can repeat it almost verbatim.
I love it.
So I went down and I sat down next to Cito and I said, Cito, if I hit in this inning, I believe Lamar is going to try to make me hit his breaking ball, not the fastball, because everybody knew I could hit the fastball.
Mhm.
And he said, so do I. And he
Okay.
said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to sit on the breaking ball.
Hmm.
And he said, stay with it. So sure enough, I go to the plate. And ironically, the first pitch that I see is what? It's a fastball that's outside. And again, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Hmm.
And where I would have fell back into that old habit of doubt, I remember in my mind thinking, no, I'm going to stay with it. And
Okay.
the next pitch was a breaking ball. I got a base hit. And that's when it all fell into place. That's the moment that all of the self doubt,
Mm-hmm.
all of the fear of failure,
Mm-hmm.
all of the anxiety
Mm-hmm.
was gone. And from that point on, I always trusted my plan. Was I right all the time? No. Sometimes the pitcher would change his pattern, whatever it may be, or I might get my, it was one of those things where I accepted the fact that I wasn't going to always be right. But if I did my homework, I studied my opponent, pitcher X, Y, or Z, whoever it may have been, then I was going to be oftentimes, I was going to, let me put it this way, I was going to be right much more often than I was going to be wrong.
Right.
And that gave me an advantage as a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ultimate line that I stepped over was I trusted my plan, and I was completely prepared to accept the outcome of my decision. And
Mm.
if I ended up being wrong, I can accept that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I I I did come to the realization, obviously, very quick in that defining moment that this works better than anything else I've ever done before. And going into the 83 season, I was a career 236 hitter. Over the next 6 years combined, I hit 293 and hit 300 or better 3 different years.
Okay.
And I became much better with runners in scoring position. I think you mentioned earlier what I accomplished as a pinch hitter in Toronto. And all of the offensive stats improved dramatically. And it was because of that one mental discipline
Mm.
that Cito introduced me to. And then I went to work on it, was willing to go through the struggle until
Mm.
it fell into place.
Mm.
And it changed everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people don't realize the attention to detail and the attention to the process and also detaching from the outcome.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
sometimes the outcome is what we get obsessed with, which means we lose sight of the things in between. And also we lose the ability to be present because we're overthinking. So there needs to be a flow. But initially, when we learn something new, we're thinking about it. And then
Yeah.
we do it enough, it becomes integrated. But then when you had that one result, it eased the
Mhm.
tension within you and you let go. So that day you
It,
hit that curveball off that Cy Young pitcher, something just decided to make sense within you. And then it just cascaded down all over you and it became a part of your being.
it became exact what happened from that point on was that was my approach all the time. And to show you how well it works, in 84, I think I hit 372 with runners in scoring position. In 85, excuse me, 381. It changed everything. And it allowed me also, for instance, as an example, I would get to the ballpark and let's say I'm not in the lineup that day,
Mm,
but I know there's a pretty good chance that late in the game,
mm,
I will be called upon to pitch hit.
okay.
And so, what would I start thinking about at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? When I got to the ballpark, I'm not in the lineup. So I start thinking, all right, eighth inning, ninth inning, who do they have in their bullpen? I will be facing that. There's the potential that I'm going to face that
Hmm.
individual.
Hmm.
What's his out pitch? What is his go to pitch
Hmm.
under pressure?
Hmm.
Because I also, through this, it's a fascinating study. I also learned because I really started paying attention to pitchers, trying to get a pattern.
Hmm.
And I began to realize that all of us, pitchers are no different than hitters, under pressure or duress, they're going to go to that pitch that they're most confident and comfortable throwing.
Yes.
So what I would do is I'd say, okay, pitcher so and so, that's their eighth inning guy, their ninth inning guy, their closer.
Hmm.
What is his out pitch?
Right.
And then I would make a decision at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If I face him in the eighth or ninth inning late in the game, this is the pitch I'm going to sit on. So at
Hmm.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, when that at bat might come up at 10:30 at 10 o'clock in the evening, I had already determined what I was going to do.
Yes.
So when you walk into that situation with 50,000 screaming fans and in a situation where it could determine the outcome of the ball game, there was no doubt. There was
Mhm.
no fear of failure.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was just you walked up there completely committed and focused
Yes.
with no concern of outcome.
Yes.
And that allowed me to be successful in those
Well,
situations.
you stayed in the game. So sometimes when somebody's on the bench, they kind of like get distracted because they're not in the zone.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think you stayed in the game. So even though you weren't playing, you're paying attention to the rhythms, who's going to be in there, what's it feel like, staying in the zone even though you're on the bench, and you're preparing. So then when it comes that moment, which could be scary because you're coming cold, is you had an idea of what you were going to do ahead of time. So that made the unknown known.
Right. The unknown, there was no doubt.
Right.
There was no what ifs.
Yes.
It was I have my plan. I've had this plan basically laid out and committed to 6 hours before it ever arrived.
Okay.
So when I walked up there,
Hmm.
there's no fear of failure, no concern with the outcome. It's just I'm going to execute my plan.
Yes.
And whatever happens, happens.
Yep. It's okay. Let it
It's
go.
okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
So let me ask you a question because we're talking about pinch hitting coming in later. I want to talk about your platoon with Garth, affectionately known as Mullinorg.
Mullinorge, yeah. Yes.
Mullinorg.
Mullinorge.
Um, so what was it like? What was that relationship like? And did you learn from each other? Did you teach each other? What was that bond like too?
Um, I don't know that we learned a lot from each other. I
Okay.
was a different type hitter than he was.
Okay.
I don't know that he took the approach that I did.
Hmm.
Um, Garth and I, um, we got along very well.
Hmm.
I don't, um, we pulled for one another,
Hmm.
and we had a very good relationship in that sense. At the ballpark,
Okay.
away from the field, he had different interests than I did,
That's okay. Yep.
and which is, I mean, that's very common among teammates. That's
Sure.
nothing unusual, right?
Yep.
So we had different interests away from the ballpark. So away from the ballpark, we did not, go to dinner, hang out together, that sort of thing. Um, but at the ballpark, um, we were both professionals, and we understood our role within the team,
Hmm.
and we did the best to our ability to help our ball club win. And we accepted our roles,
Hmm.
and I think it worked out very well for both of us. I
Hmm.
think I can say, I would have loved to have played every day. I'm sure he would too.
Of course.
But Bobby Cox liked to play those percentages, and but we had a very very good relationship
That's good.
at the ballpark. Like I said, we just didn't hang out together
Okay.
away from the field.
Right.
And Garth, I will say this about Garth. Garth is he's a wonderful person. He was a still is. I mean, he was a wonderful family man, and dedicated to his craft. And he was a great teammate.
That's great. That's really nice to hear. And you'll always have that bond on some level. You know
Yeah, to
that.
some level, we'll always be connected. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So going from that to the bigger picture, take us back to the World Series in '92. Um, what did that moment teach you about what it takes to be part of a championship team?
Oh, for me individually, or we talk
Well,
about the
I
Ed
would say
Sprague. Go ahead.
I would say trust your gut. In other words, on that question, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What did it teach you individually, and maybe what it taught you as a team?
Well, what I'll just first I'll talk about the individual side of it.
Okay.
I think the result of being a member of a World Series championship team started to happen when I was a 7-year-old boy, growing up in a little small town of about 1,200 people. And me and my dad would go down to the ball field, and we would work at the game. And that entire, you mentioned earlier the process. That was the result of a process of an individual who was completely dedicated to his craft and worked very hard at it and was willing to go through the struggles
Mm,
and put in the effort
mm,
to be a member of a World Series championship team.
mhm,
That's the individual side of it. That came about over decades of passion and dedication to something that I absolutely love doing.
mm,
That's the individual side.
mhm.
On the team side, I will say this about that 92 team. I played on a lot of very talented teams. The 80 team that I was a part of in Kansas City was an unbelievably talented team. And basically the entire time I was in Toronto, we had very, very talented teams.
Mm,
Won a lot of baseball games. Went to the postseason four times, the fourth time being in 92 when we finally won a World Series championship.
right.
So, but the I think in 92, that was a team that the leader, we had a leader by the name of Dave Winfield. And he established early on that look, we have the talent to win it,
Right.
but here's how it's going to get done. There's not going to be any individuals on this ball club. We're all going to do what it takes to help this team win.
Mm,
And that might mean sometimes we've got to hit the ball to the right side intentionally to move that runner from second to third with nobody out.
right.
We've got to do these things. So let me put it this way: whatever the situation calls upon,
Mm,
whatever that situation is that we need to do in that situation that is going to give our team the best chance to win. That's what we all need to do.
mm,
And that's not being just a Major League Baseball player. That's being a professional playing to win. And there is a difference. There's a difference between a Major League Baseball player and a consummate professional who plays to win. And so, in order to win a championship, you have to have those kind of people. You have to have 25 players dedicated to one goal. And
mm.
that's not individual stats. Those are going to happen anyway,
Yes.
but dedicated to winning. So, every situation, the thought process is I need to get a hit here. So, when the game's over, I'm still over 300. It's no, I need to pull the ball or hit the ball to the right side to move that runner.
Yes.
Whatever it may take, I've got to approach it as a consummate professional and put the team first.
Yep.
So if you're going to win a championship, it's cliche to say, but everybody's got to be on the same page and everybody has to have the same motivation. And you can't have a bunch of individuals playing for individual stats or you just can't get it done.
Right. It's not going to happen. Yep.
No,
Hmm.
not going to happen.
So let me ask you a question. So all that work, 162 game season, exhibition season, all the different points of the playoffs. Tell me about the last out. Tell me about the last out of the World Series where, you know, whatever catch was made or whatever was going on. What ran through your mind and your body? What was that like to be a world champion?
Uh, I think initially the first response, obviously, is you run onto the field and the celebration and all that, and the great sense of relief that you've finally done it. You finally won it. But the last out, I'll never forget. We brought in Mike Timlin to face Otis Nixon in game six in Atlanta with the tying run at third base. I mean, it was the 11th inning. Ironically, they had sent in John Smoltz to pinch run, and he was
Mhm.
at third base. And Otis Nixon, so Timlin was going to face Otis Nixon. Like I said, there was two outs. The first pitch, Otis fouled back. He
Mhm.
fouled that pitch off.
Right.
Now, if you look at Mike Timlin, Mike's about 6'4", 6'5", but he was a very good athlete. He moved very, very well. I mean, he could field his position. The next pitch, Otis tried to drag bunt.
Mhm.
And there was a number of pitchers on our team that probably wouldn't have been able to get off the mound and make that play. But Mike got off the mound, fielded that bunt, tossed it to Joe Carter at first base. and that was it. We were world champions, and I'll never forget that moment. Uh, as long as I have my faculties, I'll always remember that
Right,
moment.
right. It changed your identity. You're now known as a world champion.
Yes, you're a world, and what really made it special, I think a couple of things that kind of separates the Toronto Blue Jays out from all those teams, from everybody else. We were now the Expos were still in Montreal, and that they obviously had experienced some success, but we were representing an entire country, just
Mhm.
not a region or a state. We
Oh, right,
represented the entire country,
right. Good
right?
point. Yes.
And in '85, we had been up 3 games to 1 against Kansas City in the ACLS, the League Championship Series. They came back, beat us 3 straight, went on to be world champions.
Mm.
In '87, we're 3.5, 4 games up with 6 to play. We don't win another game,
Mm.
lose on the last day of the season to Detroit, and they send us home.
Wow.
That was devastating. And
Yep.
then in '89, we played the Oakland A's, who had a great club. They should have beat us. I mean, they were a powerhouse team at that point. They were better than we were, and they just boat raced us, ran through us, beat us in 5 games, and of course beat the Giants to be World Series champions. Then we won again in '91, play Minnesota. They beat us and send us home in the
Hmm.
league championship series. So to finally win it in '92, and I was one of the few guys, me, Dave, Steve. I may be missing somebody. Well, Hinkie was there in '85, so Tom Hinkie, he was still there. Um, so there had went through '85, '87, '89, '91, and to finally win a World Series championship, because you kind of get that monkey off your back of that you can't
Hmm.
get it quite done, right? It's like a golfer that is a great player but never won a major. We finally got that monkey
Over
off
the
our
hump.
back. And
Yep.
we finally did.
Hmm.
And I know for me personally, it was such a sense of relief to say, to be a member of a team that was there, that had lost in '85, went through that terrible last week of '87, and lost again in '89 and '91, and then
Right.
was finally able to win it.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like I said, it was unique in the sense that we represented an entire country of Canada. And I think for me, that even made it that much more special.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. So today I was looking at an email from Steve Springer, who played in the bigs as well.
Yes.
And he has a website called Quality at Bats, and they give a little tidbit each day. And one of the things it was talking about parents and coaches. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things it said, there was a quote, it says, I love you and I love watching you play. And they said that on some level, like one of the biggest self-esteem suckers can be baseball. It's a rough sport. I mean, you're great if you're 3 out of 10. Um,
Right.
but it's so there's one thing to maybe give advice, but I think the person needs to know they're going to be loved either way. And Kobe Bryant said one summer I think he was 11 years old and he didn't score a single point.
Mm-hmm.
And which some people are like, how is that even possible? But his dad said to him, look, I don't care if you scored, 0 or 500. We're going to love you. And I think when the person knows that, we think they assume, but we need to say it. But what is your advice to give to parents and coaches? What advice to coaches about coaching kids these days? What are some key distinctions? What are things to do, not to do? Stuff like that.
That's a great question. I think too often parents and coaches, but I'm going to put the emphasis on parents
Okay.
without, and I'm not a psychologist, so, but uh, what happens? I, I'm taking my time because I want to make sure I say this
Beautiful.
in a way that is not. criticizing, but it also will make sense.
Hmm.
Is too often a parent's reaction to the performance of their child,
Mm.
I believe gives the child the what happens to the child maybe psychologically. And it's not intentional,
Right.
but the reaction puts the child in a position where they start to feel like I'm disappointing my parents. I'm letting my parents down. And my value to my parents is my performance as an athlete.
Mm.
That's what matters most to mom or dad
Hmm.
is how I perform. And like I said, that can be completely innocent and by accident. But that's the because I coached a 13U travel team. And the one thing that I learned through that process is how delicate the human psyche can be
Mm.
and how a word or a phrase or a reaction from a parent or a coach
Hmm.
can have a very negative effect on how a young athlete feels about themselves.
Right.
And like I said, it wasn't intentional. They in reality want the best for their child. They want their child to perform well and
Hmm.
succeed.
Hmm.
But oftentimes that emotional reaction, I know I'm not going to say permanent damage, but it can cause
Hmm.
it can affect the way they see themselves or
Hmm.
value themselves.
Hmm.
I hope I'm making sense with
Yes,
that.
you are. You are, and I can help you even clean it up further.
Please, yeah.
I've seen like I saw a singer whose mom was her agent coach and stuff, and um, what happens is you start linking up performance and love, and sometimes, like at a certain point, if you are an agent for your kid, you might want to consider, should I continue to do this? Because is what happens is parents can sometimes help themselves because they
Yeah.
will say, good job, but, and they'll find that thing that needs to be worked on. And it never feels like enough. And it feels like the bar is high, but not just for the performance, but to gain the love and the connection. And I think that um, I think there needs to be an element of fun. I think that you also need to take the kid out for ice cream and
Mhm.
then not grill them, but give them a chance to, if they want to, say, hey, is there anything you want to talk about at the game, or do you just want to get ice cream? So creating space too.
Yeah.
And then saying, if you ever want feedback from me, I'm open to that, but I'll leave that up to you if you want to approach me. So I don't know if that helped. My explanation was a part of what you were saying.
No, that is a part of what I'm saying. And I'll just give an example.
Okay.
Kid makes an error, kid swings at a bad pitch, kid gives up a hit, whatever the situation may be.
Mhm.
And a parent or a coach, but again, I'm going to put emphasis on the parent because
Okay.
I'm going to assume a parent must should have more influence over their child than a
Then the
coach
coach.
does.
Yes.
And they holler something like, "What are you thinking? What are you doing? That
Mhm.
was stupid." Whatever it may be, it's an emotional reaction
Mhm.
to the situation.
Right.
Well, the effect that that has on the young athlete
Hmm.
is a negative
Hmm.
all the way around because, first of all, dad or mom or both are screaming something negative at me,
Hmm.
and it's embarrassing for me. It puts pressure. The kid, look, I coach these kids. They feel the pressure.
Totally.
They feel the pressure
Hmm.
to perform. I mean,
Hmm.
when we have, let's just 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, these kids, a lot of them are playing. because they like to play. And they just want to have fun and be a teammate and be part of a team.
Right.
And I've heard stories about endless stories about kids that and this guy or this gal they were unbelievable. They were really good players, but they just quit
Mm.
because of the pressure.
Yes.
It wasn't fun anymore.
Right.
And like I said, that's not an intention. I won't mention any names or schools or anything, but there is an individual that I know. She was an unbelievable softball player, one of the best in the state of California.
Mm.
After her freshman year in college, she quit. And the reason she quit was because of pressure from her father. That's why she quit. She finally got to the age where she said, I don't have to do this anymore. I just
Mm-hmm.
quit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a terrible thing. It really is. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I don't want to sit here and be critical of parents. I'm just expressing what I've seen, and I've watched how the young athletes react to it. And
Yes.
that's you've heard me, I've mentioned my dad. I was so blessed to have the dad that I did because my dad never put any pressure on, ever.
Mm.
And he only raised his voice. Now, this is hard to believe. He only raised his voice to me one time.
Wow.
Once, one time. And it was emotional. It was an emotional reaction in a game when I was playing a game.
Mm.
And you know what happened when we got home that night? Before
Mm-hmm.
we went to bed, he called me into the kitchen. And I thought I was because I reacted to him.
Mm.
And he said, I want to talk to you for a minute. And we sat down. I was 14 years old. And he said, I raised my voice today. And he said, I had no business doing that. I should not have done it. I was wrong, and it will never happen again. And it never happened prior to that incident, and it never ever happened again.
Wow.
So there was no pressure. There was no pressure. And my father was obviously, he was a perceptive enough guy and a big enough man to apologize to his son for raising his voice
Mm.
to him at a baseball game. And he
Mm.
was my coach. He was coaching the team.
Mm.
And so um, I know, I mean, I've been guilty of raising my voice with my children when they failed. And it's something I regret.
Of course.
But so I don't want to sit here and paint a perfect picture. I wish I could have been the man my dad was.
Mm.
It oftentimes in situations dealing with my own children. So I've made my share of mistakes as well. But I've seen how damaging it can be
Sure.
to their psyche.
Yes. Yes.
And that sometimes can last for years, if not a lifetime,
It
right?
can. It can. My buddy Trent talked about that in the podcast where his high school coach, I don't know if do you know Trent Manjaro?
I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
no, I take that back. A lengthy conversation with him.
Okay.
And he's the one actually that connected us up together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So
and he's a really good friend of a close personal friend of mine
he mentioned
that
that.
kind of made all this happen.
Yep, exactly. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And he said to me, we had the same high school baseball coach. And I had a different coach my senior year, but I had the coach he had junior year. And Trent made an error and he pulled him out of the game in mid-inning.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm saying this is Trent mentioned this in the podcast, so I'm not speaking out of bounds. This is public.
Yeah.
And he said that that really bothered him and it affected his confidence. And then ultimately, though, he used it as fuel in the future. I'm going to show you. So it was a detrimental thing initially, but then he flipped it. He found new meaning in it. How can I use this? There's a book by Patrick Bet David. It's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And what it means by that is choose your enemies, meaning choose the right fuel. If you had a fifth grade teacher that said that you're not going to amount to anything, that might be one of the enemies. Or it could be the other way. So Tom Brady chose Michael Jordan as an enemy because Michael had 6 championships. So Tom Brady says, I'm going to use that as fuel to get 7. So it's leverage. How do you use the leverage? So initially it devastated Trent, like, oh my God, I'm afraid to make a mistake now. I'm going to get pulled out of an inning. But then as he became a collegiate player and ultimately conference player of the year and all decade team, he used it for fuel.
Yes. He turned it into a positive and said,
Yes.
I'm going to use this as a motivator
Yes.
and I'm going to show you. And
Yes.
in Tom Brady's case, it was a motivation to keep pushing
Yep.
and doing everything that he had to do to keep winning championships and not
Yes.
be content with four. He wanted to have one more than Michael Jordan. I
That's
want
right.
to have seven.
Right.
That was his motivation.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
That's right.
and
So go
yeah,
ahead. I caught you.
no, I was going to say, and I think most of us, or at least I can say I did as an athlete, is I remember when I was 16, 17, 18, even after I signed professionally, there were people that I knew and it would get back to me that they said, he's not good enough. He'll never make it. And I never let that bother me. I was always, okay, well, whatever you think is fine, but I'm going to take it and use it as motivation,
Hmm.
not to make you look bad, but just as a motivator.
They're going to remember it.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, you know what? That's just another reason to keep pushing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so yeah, you can take something that is a negative and turn it into a positive for yourself individually to
Hmm.
help yourself grow. And all of and I think what's really important is we're sitting here talking about, in my baseball career, in baseball, professional baseball, athletes, what it takes to succeed, some of the things you overcome, etc. But all of this applies to life.
Yes.
It all applies to life. That it's we've heard say, well, baseball or a sport, so much you learn in that process applies to life. And it really does.
Yes.
All of this applies to life.
Right.
And, that's another conversation, but it really does. A lot of what I learned as an athlete um, and what it takes to be successful
Mm.
applies across the board to anything that's worthwhile in life doing. And that can be nothing more than just being a better parent, a better coach, a better friend.
Mm.
I mean, because we all tend to naturally go to a career, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I can take what I did as an athlete and go, and I know that applies to pretty much any career somebody wants to choose and work towards attaining. But it also applies to our personal lives
Yes.
and how to be a better friend, a better husband, a better father, a better
Yes.
mother, uh, a better parent. I mean, or a positive within our own community. It works in so many areas of our lives, and I think sometimes that's often, unfortunately, it's overlooked. You
Mm.
know, and I am big into the any kids, all the athletes that I work with or have ever worked with. What I've always tried to make a real effort to do was help them think better, have a better mental approach, and be positive with them so that the feedback they get from me is not going to in any way affect them
Mm.
psychologically in how they feel about themselves.
Right.
Because that's real easy to get caught up in. I know I was a professional athlete for 19 years. And if you're not real careful, that can become your identity.
Oh,
It can
yes.
become it can become who you are and in the way that you see yourself. And that is not healthy.
That's not a
And
good thing.
so I would take that and say, I want these young athletes that I'm working with, either before, in the past, or in the present, I want them to have a positive experience with our interaction, my interaction with
Mhm.
them, so that they feel good about themselves. And I'm not how I feel about them is not based upon their performance. All I'm concerned with is your process and that it's a positive in how you feel about yourself. I
Wow.
don't grade you out as a person and how I feel about you based upon how you performed in the game today.
Hmm.
And I think too often a coach or even a parent, without realizing it, how they feel about their child at this particular moment or their athlete is based upon how they perform today. And to me, that's not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing.
Mm.
You know, you want, you mentioned earlier, that child needs to always know, that athlete needs to always know on the human side that their value is in who they are as a human being and as a person, because that's much more important than anything you accomplish as an athlete anyway.
Mm.
And I think, unfortunately, too often times that gets overlooked.
Mm.
So,
I think
anyway,
well, they're gonna make they're gonna remember how you instructed them, but most importantly, they're gonna remember the relationship that they had with you as a mentor. And the best way to learn, if you a person goes back in time and you say, "What was your favorite teacher?" and or what class you did the best in, it usually was with their favorite teacher because they had the best relationship, and their results usually mirrored that. It's a lot
yeah,
about teaching, is a lot about the relationship, and if you don't have that relationship, it's gonna make it harder to get somebody to buy into something because you need that
yes,
trust and everything like that.
right.
After
But one thing I would add, I'm interrupting. I apologize for
No,
that.
no,
But
go
one
for
thing
it.
I would add to that, we see it all the time. I mean, we've heard it before, many of us, is that, just to simplify it, people never forget how you make them feel, right? They might forget instruction you gave them, advice you gave them. Uh, those types of things may fall by the wayside, but they'll never forget how we make them feel. And I know my life experience, boy, that has been true, because the people that I think about and remember the most in my life are the people that it's the way they made me feel and the relationship that we had because of that.
Mm,
And um, and sometimes you only have that one opportunity to make that impact.
mm,
You have that one chance,
mm,
and it's gone forever.
mm. You can't unring a bell.
You can't. And it might be, for instance, as a professional athlete, it might be that one time you take a moment to, and I'll just say a 10-year-old child, you sign something for them, you shake their hand and tell them hey, it was nice to meet you. Something like that, that has a profound effect on that child.
Mm.
But it's that one fleeting moment that will never happen again.
Right.
So I know we're kind of dragging on here. I am a little bit, but I think that is so important, so much more important than
No,
what they accomplish as an athlete or in anything else for that matter.
when I introduce this podcast, I'm going to say, Rance Mulliniks, 1992 world champion, but I'm going to write but, and the but will be, but that's not what the most significant part is. And you notice at the end, I'm paying attention to what you're saying and
Uh,
not intervening because this is actually the crux of the conversation. Because the bottom line is everybody has the fantasy of getting to the top of something.
yeah,
But when we're on our deathbed, did I make a difference? Did I grow? Did I have an impact? Because contribution and growth, there are six human needs. The two spiritual needs are the need to contribute to the greater good and the need to grow. Now, those two needs can meet the other four.
mhm,
So when it comes down to it, it's about relationships and it's about how you handle the relationship and the impact you have. Because then, if the person has that esteem because they know they're loved and they feel significant because they're loved, they're now capable of astounding things.
yes, that unconditional, no matter what, you may fail, but it's
Yep.
never going to change how I feel about you,
Right.
right? And people, I've been asked many, many times, do you to that is no. I was fortunate enough to play for a long time. From the time I was 7 till I was 36 years old. That's 30 years or whatever it is. Whatever it is. So I was fortunate enough to play a long, long time. So I never missed playing. But when you ask me what I miss, the admit I miss the relationships and the camaraderie that I shared
Yeah.
with the players that I played with
Yeah.
and some of the managers and coaches. That's what I miss is the relationships. And those mean more to me. I'm sitting here today, I'm 70 years old. Last week I had, I called Cito Gaston. We had a nice conversation. We've maintained a very close relationship over decades now. And those mean more to me than anything I accomplished as an athlete. It's not the World Series championship.
Hmm.
It's the relationships.
Yes.
And to some degree, you kind of have that feeling of what you contributed to your team and to helping others. Because, there were some young guys I helped along the way when I got a little long in the tooth towards the end of my career. Those types of things mean more to me than what I accomplished individually as an athlete.
Mm.
Those are more important. That I was able to help some others along the way and the relationships that I still have to this day because they last a lifetime. The World Series championship it happened in 92. It's been a long time ago and it was great when it happened, but it will never replace the relationships, and helping somebody else be a little bit better and chase their
Mhm.
dream. I would say those are the two things that I cherish the most.
So give us an update, give the audience an update about what you're doing now you live on the West Coast and you're
Yes.
coaching and doing things. Give us a sense of where your life is now and what your wishes are for the rest of your experience here.
Well, what my goal is to take my life experience and what I learned as a professional athlete, all that goes into that.
Hmm.
I want to take that and get it out to others, get that information out to others, either as a coach instruction or in speaking engagements,
Mm.
and pass along some of those life lessons
Mm.
that I have learned along the way to help them
Mm.
have more success with their respective careers, or even simply just be a better person and get more joy and satisfaction out of life.
Mm.
That's my goal. That's what I want to do. I want to help others succeed. And that's not only just in a career, but also because some of this we can take and apply to our everyday lives, and it helps us improve and be better, more productive as a human being, as a person, someone who becomes a better coach,
Mm.
maybe even a better parent. I don't, but that's my goal. That's what I want to do.
That's
With
awesome.
whatever time I have left here on this earth, that's what I want to do. I want to
That's awesome.
give back and hopefully pass something along. I know I can pass something along that whatever your situation may be, it can help you be better
Yeah.
and get more satisfaction and joy out of just life.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I
It
hope that makes
it
sense.
makes a lot of sense and it's beautiful. And Rance, what's your website for the audience?
Well, just rancemulliniks.com,
Okay.
and you can go to the website. You can Google it up, go to the website. I am here in the not so far away future going to be adding some things to that website that I think present a better message in terms of what I want to do, what my message is, and what I'm trying to accomplish with it. And but you can go to the website, and I am going to start here in the not so far away future, just on the blog site, just presenting, some very just a maybe a paragraph or two that kind of sends along a message or a thought for the day or whatever it may be. But
Okay.
yes, that's where you can go to
Okay.
kind of learn a little bit more about me.
Okay. From the movie The Peaceful Warrior, there's a quote that I want to add in here because we were talking about being encouraging and a
Right.
discouraging experience. A man does not give up what he loves. He finds the love in what he does. And
Hmm.
sometimes in what we do, you were talking about the trials and tribulations as a player, the days you didn't want to go to the ballpark.
Right.
We don't quit at that moment. We have to remind ourselves, how can I find the love? What can I do to find the love in what I do? How can I rediscover the magic
Mhm.
and remember the love of life and to not hold back? Because sometimes through our pain, trials, and tribulations, our World Series losses, we hold back a part of ourselves. And the goal is to keep trudging forward and keep with the message of moving forward. And, there are no failures, only feedback. So the reality is you get hurt, you're in pain, use that pain, move forward, trudge forward, and get the lessons in life. And Rance, you've been a beautiful lesson and a beautiful example of not only how to play a sport at a high level, but to how to live life at a high level. And I really want to thank you for being my guest today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and like I said, I've been so blessed to have so many positive people in my life that have helped me along the way. And I think I would say one of the things I'm proud of is I've never forgotten all of those who did help me
Mm,
throughout my life. Um, and I would like to say this is that failure is part of the process.
mm,
What's important is that we learn from that.
mm,
And this is nothing new, that we learn from the failure and keep pursuing our goal and striving to attain it. And we're not going to always do that. I was never an all-star. I'm never going to be a Hall of Famer. But I was asked recently, I had a speaking engagement here not too long ago, and I had a question in the Q&A of a mother, it was obviously a mom. She says, "What do you tell your child when they're not the best player on the team? Um, they don't do as well as some of the better players."
mm,
And my answer to her was this, and I think it's critical. Let's say you have a child there's a player on the team that hits 350
mm,
because they're really good and they're going to hit 350. And your child hits 250, but your child had to work extremely hard to hit 250. The player that hit 350 doesn't. He just shows up, he or she, and they hit 350 because their skill level allows them to do that. But who's the greater success? Who's the real success story? And if you had to work and dedicate yourself to hit 250, then you are a success story. You are a
mm,
success because you got the most out of your ability. And that's the way I answered that question because it is so true. It, there are so many kids, and there are so many kids that not everybody's going to be the star, right? They're not
right.
going to be the best player on the team. But a kid who hits 250 may have had to put a whole lot more time and dedication and hard work into hitting 250 than that kid that hits 350. So who's the greater success? You're a success story. If you've been the best that you can possibly be, you're a success.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And
So,
I hope that if, with everything that we've talked about today, those who hear this podcast, if that's the message that they can take and always remember, then uh, um, I think that's a great thing for us to all take with us as parents, as coaches, and even when in when we're thinking back on our successes and failures. If we can look back and say, you know what, I did the best I could do. And I wasn't meant to be a Hall of Famer, but I got the best out of what I had. And I think that's the way that we all need to look at ourselves.
mhm.
And
So folks, take a snapshot of that moment. Again, thank you, Rance, for being on. Folks, thank you for tuning in. And this is Will Cook signing off from the Will to Win podcast. Take care, everybody. And again, Rance, thank you.
Thank you.